Hello, hi. If I could get 4 volunteers that would like to help us open up this show. 4 volunteers, there is a prize. Yes, there's one in the back. There is a prize for doing it. You are not going to get embarrassed much. Like, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I got another one.
Yes!
Yes, can I get a third one? A third volunteer? Let me tell you, this is a casual night, a fun time. Who's gonna help us open up a show? There's a third one and a fourth. Woo! Let's get a round of applause for our volunteers, please. So if I get my volunteers line up to me to my left, right over here. Hello, how's it? Woohoo! So, as it's kind of become our tradition, we are going to be starting the show with a dramatic reading. But a dramatic reading from Kermit the Frog. So, our volunteers, I'm going to be giving you guys some scripts, and we're going to be doing a nice dramatic reading. I want you to really get into that, like,
Let's get them the microphones.
grade.
Let's get them the microphones.
What? Okay.
Amy can do that. I want you to get into that, like, 10th grade. I'm in high school. I've been preparing for this role all
Okay,
year.
you two share, and you two share.
I think we're aiming a little high for me.
So, my volunteer number 1, you are going to be playing the coveted role of Kermit the Frog.
Woohoo!
Hi-ho, everybody.
Volunteer number 2, Gonzo.
Oh, my God.
Volunteer number 3, Vincent Price.
Oh, my God.
We expect a very convincing Vincent Price impression, just so you know.
Want to try it out or gather yourself? I don't know what Gonzo.
I'm hearing it there, so you guys speak up.
And volunteer number 4 is going to be Uncle Deadly.
And I shall be your narrator over here
Yes.
on this microphone.
And so now we are going to be presenting a TWC classique reading from The Muppets.
We take you now to Transylvania, to a high and brooding hill. We take you now to the house of horror.
Oh, Gonzo, I didn't think very much of this summer cottage you rented for us.
Yeah, I don't understand it. The ad looked so good on paper.
What paper was that?
The Vampire Weekly.
The Vampire Weekly? The Vampire Weekly?
Weekly. It does look kind of big for just the 2 of us.
A ghost flies by.
3 of us. No, the 3 of us.
Well, at least we won't be lonely.
There's a tapping on the door.
Someone's at the door. Someone's at the door.
Oh, I bet it's not the welcome wagon.
Vincent Price enters.
Excuse me, but do you have a room for the night? You see, the road has washed out and my horse had a flat tire.
Well, maybe
This is the toughest part.
I must tell you, I am not alone. I'm traveling with my beautiful assistant and a hideously deformed monster.
Uncle Deadly enters.
Oh, hideously deformed is right.
Watch it. I'm a beautiful assistant.
Oh, boy.
Master, I've left Toto in the car.
Toto?
And now I must ask, can you tell me what time it is?
Oh, golly. My hourglass seems to have stopped.
Oh, this is terrible, terrible.
We're in trouble.
Yes.
Why's that?
Because every night, at the stroke of midnight, the master turns into a screaming, maniacal, demonic, raging, bloodlusting animal.
And then I get mean.
What do we do?
Quickly, prepare a dungeon, chains, manacles, bind me.
A clock begins striking.
Oh no! It's too late! It's midnight! Oh no, something different and quick! What night is it?
Oh, New Year's Eve!
Oh no, this is too cruel, too inhumane!
What? Tell me, what? Huh?
Vincent Price transforms into a gruesome monster.
Oh no!
The end.
And wait, volunteers, don't leave too quickly. Like I said, there was a prize. Thank you for those. And all of our volunteers are going to be getting a copy of the newest issue of Poet Lore. Is your number Poet Lore?
You can keep that script if you want.
Hi, welcome to the Writer Center, a literary arts nonprofit supporting writers and people who want to write, and Kermit the Frog. Come on up.
Woohoo!
Woo.
Woo!
I am Amy Freeman. With me.
I'm Emily Holland.
Oh, you got your own.
And Brandon Johnson.
That's it? Come on. Jesus.
We try.
So today is Leap Day. So as any of you who have been to the Writer Center Live before, you know that we have a theme each night, and today our theme is things that jump. Is someone going to jump or no? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So leap year, leap day, things that leap. Leap of faith, look before you leap. Superman could leap a tall building in a single bound. So one.
A single bound.
I never saw it, but I would like to ask my compadres. I don't know what the gender-neutral term for that is, but my compadres.
Into it.
What is your superpower, Zach?
Oh, I'm going first.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
I
didn't introduce you.
Oh yeah, who am I?
Zach Powers, the Writer Center Orchestra.
So my superpower, other than arranging incredibly neat cables at the back of the stage, please take a look. They're incredibly neat. So my brother is actually back there taking photographs. But he has claimed, yeah, we'll thank him at the end. You can ignore him for now. That's just part of the story. You don't need to clap for him. He claims his superpower is being able to drop something, then catch it without being able to see it, such as the soap in the shower. And I mean, I did that today, by the way. I was thinking about the superpower, and I was like, oh, Josh has that one. Like, oh, I did it. So that's why this is getting talked about, because I'm clumsy. But I decided that my superpower is, in fact, not dropping things in the first place, which makes me better than him, because that's what brothers are for.
Siblings.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Sure. So my superpower is I have the uncanny ability to listen to a song, hear the lyrics incorrectly, but fill them in with synonyms. So somehow, when I'm singing it back to you, you'll say, "Are those the words?" I don't know if I ever really knew the words in the first place, but you know, the actual meaning of the song didn't change. So like, I'm like pretty good at it.
Can I jump back?
Can you give us a sample?
No. It's kind of a spur of the moment thing. I didn't say my power was memorization. Okay. Like, I'm singing along, and I'm like, yeah, should be, I don't know. I can't even think of one on the spot right now.
Canopies. Okay.
Can I jump back in on that theme?
Yeah.
Because my college roommate had maybe the most impressive superpower I've ever seen. He was a diehard fan of the band Cake. And he played, like, that was the only music he ever played, which could get old, but he'd mastered the art of inserting profanities between every word in the lyrics. It was uncanny. Like, he would never miss the right lyrics, but would just throw an F-bomb between everything. And it was, anyway, it was...
Genius.
It was genius.
Some might say super.
See what he did there? Okay. Emily, your superpower, please.
All right. Well, I'm already a twin, so telekinesis, already a thing that I have.
Given.
So my other superpower would be that no matter how hard I try, I am always 10 minutes early to something. Even if I try to be fashionably late, always early.
Is that a form of time travel?
It is.
All right. Well, my superpower, nobody's asked, but I'll tell you.
Amy, what's your superpower?
Thank you, Zach. My superpower is I can get things done without raising a finger. Zach, would you please? Margaret, could you possibly? Emily, can you?
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I did think of that for you.
Okay, so a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, there are diminishing numbers of drinks which we will replenish in the back. This is not go up, get a drink anytime you want. You don't need to raise your hand. You don't need to wait for an intermission because there is none. Donations. Donations are good. Donations are good. If you have extra money, you should give it to us. Because genius like this does not come cheap. We take Venmo, we take PayPal, we take cash. I will personally take cryptocurrency. All the information's in the back there. At the end, we're going to ask you to fill out some evaluations because we need funders to think we're actually doing something with their money. Welcome to the Writer Center. I think that's it. Woo-hoo.
We can do better than that.
Frogs.
Frogs!
Frogs!
The frogs, grab frogs. Yeah. Everyone, heads up!
Frogs! And now
There'll be
to
more
a
frogs
literary
later.
event.
Yeah,
Okay.
there'll be more. Leap day. Leap day.
Leap day. Leap day. All right. You guys sit down. This is all mine. Maureen, are you here? Yes. Do you still want to come up? Come on up. I got this. Maureen Sohail?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Writer Center. Writer Center Live. Who the heck are you?
Hi, I'm very nice. My name's Mehreen. I'm a writer. I moved to DC in 2018 from Pakistan, so I'm from Pakistan. And that's it. Thank you for the woo. Are you from there?
But I just live.
Oh, okay, great.
Would you like to hold the Frog of Power?
Sure. I feel like my reading isn't really
Frog related?
Yeah, but
That's fine. It's a leap day thing. What is your superpower?
I am actually really good with doing hair.
I need you. Can you recommend a book, please?
Oh, I didn't think about that. You told me about that.
Recommend Dave Housley's book. He's here tonight reading.
I will after I have read it. I will read it right after this reading.
Ignore the other readers and just read his book so you can.
I recently read Tara Westover's Educated. I thought that was great.
Did you read the afterword?
I did, yes.
Has anybody read Educated? All right, we can talk. Just find me afterwards because I want to debrief. Okay. Would you like to? Yeah, just read. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I have recently finished my novel, which is a work in progress. Thank you. It's just sitting in my house. There's nothing happening with it yet. But I have short pieces from it that I'm going to read. They're not in order. The first one is called Cake.
I like the call back there.
Can you insert profanities between every word that you're going to read?
Actually, maybe. So we'll see. This one's called Cake. Uzair, the maid's son, is 10 years old and visits his mother at our house sometimes. He lives with his father, who drives a taxi during the day. Uzair's nickname is Bulldozer because of his boxy face. Today, he found a drugged Cake outside the house 2 doors down from us. The brothers who live in that house are 17 and 18, and they're famous in the neighborhood for being good-for-nothing drug takers. In the mornings when I drive to work, they are sitting on the porch rolling joints. At night, when I get home from work, a steady stream of cars is parked outside the house and the air above their garden is smoky. It's possible that these brothers baked the cake. When they were too scared to eat it, they probably threw it out. So really, it was just waiting for Uzair, one side smashed against the grass and the other side ripe for the eating. Uzair lies bang in the middle of the street after he eats it, clutches his stomach and makes a loud whining sound that everyone ignores for a while because nobody can possibly imagine it could be a child. A tractor, yes, or a lawnmower. Finally, the maid Nasreen, who is washing the porch, looks out the gate and seeing her son drops everything and runs. She picks him up and brings him back to our house, and instead of saying anything, begins to cry wildly in the kitchen. My father quickly pulls out the car and lays Bulldozer on the back seat, and Nasreen sits with her son's head in her lap. My mother gets in the passenger seat in the front, and I squeeze in next to her. Then my father puts his hand on the horn and drives to the hospital like an ambulance. He blares through all the traffic lights and spotlights, weaves between cars. And the whole way there, all 20 minutes, he keeps up a regular stream of curse words. Assholes, mother chod, bhan chod, fucking asshole shits. We can't be sure who he is talking about, but I think it is about the boys who baked the cake. By the time we get to the hospital, Bulldozer is drooling, half unconscious and has stopped screaming. Nasreen looks clean cut in half. They carry her son away in a stretcher, and my mother and I tell her, doctors know everything here, he'll be fine. We do not touch her when we speak to her. I remember how when I was younger and wanted to go to the cinema, my mother used to ask me to check the seats for needles first. How her face looked only for a brief second like the maid's does now. Nasreen only nods when we comfort her, and soon a doctor comes out and says they punked his stomach. It was drugs and he's fine. We go in to see Bulldozer, who is sleeping, and it is such a relief not to see him writhing anymore. Collectively, we breathe a sigh of relief and leave Nasreen there, ask her to make sure he is better before coming back to work. For many days after, despite myself, I keep stumbling on that image of the boy in the back seat of my father's car, him mewling and his mother mewling and all of us hurtling towards the hospital. This one's called A Fall. In late November, 6 months after my father's death, my mother fell. She toppled, slipping hard on the veranda before standing again and looking down at her clothes and asking gleefully, "Were you scared?" "I had no one else," I said just as lightly, trying not to think of all the places my father had fallen that year. At home, in the hospital, while being lifted into the ambulance, on this very veranda, in his head, in my head, in all our heads. Straight through to this wet bone of a moment where, yes, I was scared. This last one's called Lungs. Samina Noor, the patient in the bed next to my father's bed, coughed out her lungs. They came out small and tarry, kidney-shaped, which was strange. We were in beds next to each other at the hospital, or she was in a bed next to my father, and both our respective families were around their respective beloveds' beds. My father was asleep, so he did not hear the lungs come out. But Samina's mother let out a high-pitched scream, so we all left my father's side of the room to stare for a few minutes. Samina's mother was staring at Samina's stomach, on top of which she'd leaned to cough out the lungs. They were bleeding and small, had tiny veins bursting down the sides. I thought of a fish out of water, a salmon skinned. "Her lungs are fine," Samina's mother said as the doctors came running. "Her lungs are fine," she said when the doctors picked them up with gloves holding them by the edges. Samina lay back down on the bed with a hand on her chest, rattling her breaths inside her lungless body. I thought she was going to die, and my mother put a hand to her own chest and began to cry. "What a beautiful girl," she whispered to Samina's mother as the rattling grew louder and louder. And Samina's mother spoke over it to repeat, "Her lungs are fine." In the next bed, my father didn't move. My brother said, "Whoa, this is insane." And we turned the whole thing into a spectacle. But underneath it all, we felt relieved that we were still far away enough from the rattling of our father to be able to watch this spectacle. The nurses came back and said, "A few hours now." We were even relieved to hear that because we knew for a fact that they didn't mean our father, at least for now. "Thank God," we said to God under our breaths. "At least he's sleeping." And then later Samina Noor died and her mother wailed. And then later that day our father died and my mother wailed. And still the memory of the relief stayed inside us and curdled. We were happy to see Samina Noor go because before our father, because we thought that there was a tack board out there somewhere where deaths were taking place instead of other deaths. Even now we mark favors on the tack board. At least his lungs were still inside his body when he died. At least he wasn't young like Samina Noor. Thank you.
First of all, can we get a seat for the very important and famous Rose Laurie and Jimmy Patterson? Seats. There are seats here. All right, let's clap them up, people. All right, that wasn't funny. Okay. How many romance writers does it take to screw in a light bulb? How many? I can't tell you. But I must. I shan't. But I shall.
Hey, Brandon. Brandon.
Oh.
Is it time for an unscheduled rap?
Is it time?
I think it is. Absolutely a time for unscheduled rap. 1 second.
I guess I'm rapping now. This is what happens when you make a joke. You have to follow through. Now you have to do it in front of all these people. I hope I don't lose all my rhythm, because I'm not a schism. Word to your mother. This is why my mother told me to think before you speak.
Before you leap.
Before you leap.
Before you leap.
Okay. I have the pleasure to introduce Rachel Kuntz. Where's she at?
Rachel, come to the front.
Hey, Rach. Okay, Rach. I got a question for you. What's your deal? Yeah, so people can hear you.
What's my deal?
What's your deal? What's your name? What do you do? Why do you do it?
My name is Rachel. I co-direct the Inner Loop literary community. I'm a mother.
Yes. Yes.
You can clap for that. It's pretty cool. I'm a director for TV news. And I'm a writer.
In 2020, nobody has one job anymore. Everybody's
Right?
got like slash upon
It's all about
slash
the
upon
hustle.
slash. Okay, so we're thinking about leap year. We're thinking about our superpowers.
Oh.
What is your superpower?
Well, I was thinking about Emily's superpower, and I have the magical ability to, no matter what I do, always be 10 minutes late to everything. Which is why I don't have a seat. You guys are awesome. It's like standing room only back there.
And so my last question I'm going to ask you
Okay.
is, what is something you can recommend to us that will spark joy in our lives?
Ooh,
It says a book, but like, you can go
this is better.
further than a book.
This is better, yeah.
What's a good TV show
You-
you've watched?
So you took a right turn. I was gonna recommend hot baths. That's what I treat myself to all the time, and they're so underrated and really
Do we get
nice.
into a candle situation?
We do candles. You got to open the windows so you have the cool and the hot. You got to have a cool drink, a nice book. You can do bubbles or salt.
This is far more complicated than anything I have ever done.
There's a lot of options for hot baths.
You gotta treat yourself.
Exactly. Treat yourself to a hot bath.
Without further ado, please
Thank you.
spark joy in us with some great reading.
Thanks. Well, I just want to say thanks, first of all, to the Writers Center for having me and for being so awesome, and all of you for coming out tonight. I teach a workshop on reading aloud, and the first thing I tell people is to always print out their work.
I'm sure you're a great teacher.
Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm writing a memoir about the things that we inherit, whether that be red hair, or sense of humor, or alcoholism, or trauma. And I was going through a big writer's block, which I recently broke through. And I sort of coincidentally, my father started writing his memoir and sending out to the family, so that was lucky. So I borrowed a few details from some stuff that he sent out, and this is called Mirrors. Protruding from the pile of blankets at the end of the bed are my father's 2 feet. They stick up at a 45-degree angle from the mattress and twitch slightly as he snores. The bottoms are worn smooth like a well-used iron skillet and are sometimes just as black, while the outer edges are scored with white lines like crumpled parchment paper. They are tougher than the bed of pine needles he stands on to sort beans in the sunlight of the backyard, yellower than his coffee-stained teeth, and more cracked than the drywall around his latest tantrum. We avoid looking directly at his toenails, which are browned with fungus and so thick that they arch up from the mound of his toes in a mournful frown. Sorry if you're eating. My partner hates feet, and he's like, "Why didn't you warn me about that?" The scar on the bottom of his left foot is not visible. The tender foot of his 5-year-old self landed on a broken milk bottle and tore nearly in half, earning him 72 stitches and some much-needed attention from his father. Just the thought of it makes my equally tender, equally 5-year-old foot tingle. My father offers us a quarter to massage his feet. It started as a joke because he heard it on a movie once, some weird aunt offering a kid a quarter to rub the corn on her foot. But then he actually gave us the quarters, which could buy a piece of gum or a lollipop, or if we put our money together, a cheap toy from the dollar store. Right now, though, he's out cold, so I go outside to play. Kimberly's feet get smaller as she reaches the end of the sidewalk until she disappears around the corner. I am alone. I look at the walls of cement along one side of the sidewalk, one with a hot pepper plant poking over the top that once sent me home crying in a fiery pain. The other side of the sidewalk is hedged with parked cars, all empty. A moment ago, I was running. I was chasing. I was it. Now I see myself sitting, facing in the wrong direction, as if I were watching a mirror image of myself. She is still, staring dead-eyed at the ground in shock, and her leg, the meat of her leg. The way my father tells it, he didn't even cry as the sole of his foot flapped free in the air. "Help," she yells out, but she's not frantic. She's matter-of-fact, robotic. "Help!" I walk around her in circles, looking for the thing that split her open. I peek into car windows and through sliding glass doors looking for someone. Help, she yells again, and the sound bounces off cement and steel. Tears emerge in my eyes as I watch her. I want to touch her shoulder. I want to hug her. I want to take her leg meat, stuff it back into her leg, and wrap it up with Scotch tape. Help. A rhythmic thud responds. Finally, someone approaches. His mother wrapped the wound in cloth, and although my father was living in a tent in the woods with his family, who were migrant workers at the time, and they could barely afford to eat, his father took him directly to the hospital. When the ambulance arrives, an attractive young man wraps my leg in white gauze. He wraps it so many times the gauze sticks out an inch from my leg. He is careful with me. He matches my tenderness with tenderness. He's ready to lift me up and onto a stretcher to go into the ambulance. And the shock having worn off, I get excited to actually ride inside an ambulance, just like on TV. But then my father turns up. Thanks, I'll take it from here. He nearly snatches me from the paramedic. Sir, your daughter needs to go to the hospital. I can take her, my father says, walking away from the scene. Wes, my mother runs after him. What are you doing? I'm not paying hundreds of dollars for a ride to the hospital when I can drive the girl myself. When we get to our van, my father lays me down on the worn mattress where the back seats should be. You see, just like an ambulance, he says, but I'm disappointed. My father's father opted for the doctor to clean the wound without putting him to sleep. The doctor rooted around in the meat of my father's 5-year-old foot with tools and iodine, and my father didn't make a peep. Everyone was impressed, and my father was proud of his father's pride. There is a barrier between my face and the rest of me as multiple people tend to my leg. I'm able to see distorted images of the damage in the round mirror above me. I make out piles of red rags and the contrast of a thin black line against orange skin. I only get 27 stitches, or maybe it was 72 in the mirror. Once my father's foot healed, he had missed the window to start first grade, so he went back to the fields. When my leg heals and the stitches are ready to come out, my father decides it isn't worth the money to pay a doctor to pull out a few bits of thread, so he grabs a pair of pliers and does it himself. I, unlike my father, make a peep, and he is unimpressed.
Get your wine, get your wine.
Wine.
And to everyone in the audience, get more wine.
Yeah, there's more back there.
Actually, we're running low on wine, so can someone go and take it from the theater? Can someone go take the wine from the theater? I need a show of hands. There we go. We got somebody taking it. We'll replace it, or not.
All right, how y'all doing? We're going to do a little poetry moment. So I am Emily. I'm the managing editor for Poet Lore. Yeah. It's America's oldest poetry magazine, and we publish it right here in the Writers Center. So Zach is going to read his favorite poem from our new issue.
It was so good that I immediately went out and discovered the poet had a book coming out, and I bought the book, and it arrived last week. And it was the most joy I've experienced reading a book in a long, long time. They're weird little, his name is Jose Hernandez Diaz. They're weird little poems. They're almost simplistic in a non-negative way. They are relentlessly positive. They avoid taking the negative turn that so much could. Anyway, it seemed like a good poetry book, and I was just so happy to have read it. And this is all started with this poem right here. This is called The Skeleton and the Book. And it's from a series of skeleton poems that he has in his new poetry chapbook. A skeleton sat by a lake and read a book. The book was about the origin of the land of skeletons. The land of skeletons was founded 600 years ago. The skeletons rose from the grave and demanded their freedom. Long had they waited in the cold earth. The skeletons fought many dragons in order to gain their freedom. Many rode valiant horses to fight their enemy. When the war was over, the skeletons raised their revered flag, a skeleton and a sword. They began to build a civilization of skeletons. They elected officials. They danced in nightclubs. They surfed in the ocean. War never returned to the land of skeletons. They lived in peace with the crows, mountain goats, and the redwoods alike. The land of skeletons is our home. Thank you.
Frogs.
Frogs! Hey, can we toss a little frog? They had some frog interest to the far right here. Is there, can you toss it like?
I think the frogs need to
right
go
here,
to the
right here,
back.
right here. Yes, there we go. Yes, frog. Oh, there it is. Yes.
Way back.
Way back. Okay, that was a good arm.
I did sports once.
Yeah.
And now I'm a writer, so.
And so it's all gone downhill. Now I strip a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not on your wires, since you're pretty good at hiding those. Next up, we have the incredible Dave Housley.
I almost yelled woo into a microphone. Is Dave Housley in the house? Is Housley in the house? See what I did there?
Funny. Hello, Dave.
Yeah. I'm a trained professional.
Buy the book
Yeah, so we already know you have a book
I do.
that you
Yeah.
can buy tonight.
for
I brought-
sale.
I brought
There it
copies.
is.
My wife Lori is in the back. She has a whole bunch of copies back there.
Can we
One
buy
of us
them?
will sell them to you for whatever you got.
And she wants a whole lot fewer copies.
Yeah. Sorry, good question. It's called Howard and Charles at the Factory. It's about two old Trump supporters who, on the day of his inauguration, go to the site of their old factory and sit in a couple of lawn chairs and wait for their jobs to come back. Oh, wow. It turns out how you think it's going to turn out.
How much is it?
$10.
Only $10.
Only to.
Yes.
Will
can
you
believe
sign it as well?
Or more wine, if someone can find more wine back
Who's
in the
getting
theater.
the wine? I don't see the wine runner, but maybe the wine runner is running for wine. Okay.
All right, so what else can you tell us about yourself?
I'm a normal dude. I'm one of the editors of Barrel House magazine. I work for Penn State doing web stuff, and I'm a dad and a normal dude, like I said. Yeah.
Right. So what would your superpower be?
In the 80s and the 90s, I was really good at making mixtapes. It's a skill I don't find myself being able to exercise much anymore, unfortunately.
A lost art.
Yeah.
And can you recommend something, anything? A book, movie, TV,
Yeah.
a mixtape?
Well, I thought about that.
New box of wine.
I recommend a new box of wine. The book How to Sip by Tyrese Coleman is a really great book. I know Ty's been here. If you haven't read that before, check it out. It's really great.
Wonderful. All right, well, get to reading.
Okay, so like I said, I have this new book out. But like a true marketing professional, I'm going to read something that's not from this book. You should still buy the book, though. But in the spirit of this evening, I'm going to read a couple stories. I like to do stupid writing projects. So my latest writing project is I'm writing really short stories from the point of view of Looney Tunes characters. So I'm going to read a couple of those. First, I want to say thanks to everyone from the Writer Center for having me here. This is such a cool event.
How thankful are you?
Very thankful. I would give you some money if I had extra.
Can anyone in the audience give us money if they have
I
extra?
think everyone who has extra.
And if you
should give
buy
it to
some
the
books,
Writers'
you'll have
Center.
extra.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it.
More wine?
Caught me. So anyway, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it. This is great, and thanks to everyone for being here. So I'm going to read two really short stories. These are really easy to name as well. First I'm going to read Roadrunner, and then I'm going to read Coyote. So the first one is called Roadrunner. Roadrunner can see the arches in the distance. Behind them, the mountains. He is running, moving as always, minding the blur of the desert on either side, the potential for danger in the road ahead. Is that a rock mound or an anvil? The shimmer of the sun or 100 wicks of dynamite simmering? He moves up a hill and smells the creature. A whiff and then a beakful of rot. A flash of mottled fur and the coyote is lumbering behind him. The beast clutches something in his paw. A detonator or a crossbow or the complete Acme mail order catalog. Roadrunner slows a fraction and turns. "Why are you chasing me?" he shouts into the wind. As always, his legs move effortlessly. His body leans slightly forward. His vision blurs as the air rushes around his head. But the coyote has never endeavored to so much as understand his language, and his entreaties will sound nothing so much as a simple beep beep to the animal's incurious ears. He runs on. The road dips and rises. The blue horizon remains fixed. The mountains loom ever closer. He feels it before he hears it, and before his brain has processed anything, the Roadrunner finds himself leaning left. Zip! An arrow passes on his right. He dips and another flies over his head. He jumps and then watches as another passes under his feet. He wonders at the coyote, almost respects the animal's pure drive. After all these years, after each time he crashed into a mountainside or blew himself up or ran smack into a cleverly planted anvil, the coyote continues his pursuit. If Roadrunner weren't the object of the animal's murderous objective, he might find the sense of duty admirable. Roadrunner can hear the coyote's ragged breath, the lopsided carriage of his claws scrabbling away. He rounds a turn and pauses. A pass, a narrow suspension bridge, a rocky canyon below. Coyote stops as well. He sucks the air in great, desperate gulps. His rotten breath is like an oppressive heat. Roadrunner wonders if he is going to have a heart attack right here on this road. "Let us stop this madness," he says. Coyote bares his fangs. He swipes his back paws on the road. Roadrunner wonders where he will go to lick his wounds, if there are cubs there to greet him, a partner, a pack. Even as he pities the poor creature, his brain is gauging distances, his muscles coiled and ready. "You do know the definition of madness," he says. Coyote wipes the drool from his face. He walks a few steps and then he is running. His paws are clenched, fangs bent to either side of his face. His eyes are closed in concentration. Roadrunner retakes the path with the animal close behind. He allows the coyote to gain until just before the bridge. He stops, darts right, and cuts the ropes. He waits to hear the scream, the crash of the coyote's body on the canyon floor, but there is nothing but the wind. He turns back to the canyon. He runs. All right, so that's one. Thank you. That's one side of the story. This story is cleverly called Coyote.
Oh, I get it.
Right? Yeah. Okay, this is Coyote. Beep, beep. Coyote feels the adrenaline kick. His legs steady, eyes focus on the horizon. He looks left, then right. Beep, beep. Roadrunner is getting closer. Coyote's fingers are actually tingling. His mouth waters. He looks left, right. Can he actually hear the steamroller churn of the animal's legs, or is his stupid body fooling him again? He has learned to distrust his eyes, his brain, the way one sends messages and the other reads the signals. It is all ones and zeros, patterns and interpretation. Nothing is real. Run into a fake tunnel painted on a canyon wall once, he thinks. Shame on me. Run into it a 24th or a 50th time, and maybe we are all living in the Matrix. Beep, beep. And still his body springs to the ready when the bird approaches. His legs are coiled. He looks left. He knows the sharp tips of his fangs have no nerve endings, but he swears he can feel an ache there, a muscle ready to be used. He looks right. There, the little dust cloud that trails the bird everywhere he goes. Even as Coyote sighs inwardly, his body is gauging the distance and the speed of the animal's approach. His legs are moving, slow and then fast, and then the Roadrunner is on his side. Beep, beep. Coyote finds himself in his usual position, watching the blur of the animal's dinosaur feet, the pert muscled chapel of its posterior as it powers ahead towards what or where he is not sure. He is never sure, but he follows. He relaxes for a moment, enjoys the animal strength of his body doing what it was meant to do. He lets his mind go blank, focuses on his breathing, the purposeful feel of his feet striking the asphalt. He is a coyote. He is hunting. He is chasing a Roadrunner. He has tried meditation and has never really been able to let go. Surrender his grip on the present, shut off his brain, and just be here now. This is as close as he will ever get, he knows. This right here, Coyote and Roadrunner and running blindly towards the blank desert horizon. The animal breaks right and Coyote follows. The dust cloud kicks higher. Coyote refocuses. He has met humiliation in these canyons. He has met cruel fate and astounding trickery. He has had 3 knee replacements and 2 concussions. The last surgeon who operated on his nose warned that there was very little cartilage left to work with at all. He owes his dentist 2 paychecks worth of fang repair. The animal stops and Coyote stops as well. He waits, gauges the situation. The Roadrunner stands still. Surely there is a trick coming, a pipe or an anvil or another optical illusion. Coyote has finally learned to never accept a package that purports to be from the Acme Corporation. Beep, beep, the animal says. Coyote wonders again why the Roadrunner never speaks. If there is anything behind those big, bright eyes, the Roadrunner is smiling, always appears to be smiling. What does it say about Coyote that his one and only lifelong adversary has a vocabulary of 1 word? The animal takes off and Coyote follows. He hates that he is running, chasing, following. He hates his legs, his lungs, his stupid eyes focusing perfectly on the blue blur in front of him, the dumb lizard brain that sends him pedaling after the Roadrunner despite everything he has learned. His therapist thinks it has something to do with his mother. The Roadrunner runs and Coyote follows. Up and down the canyon valley, over rocks and sand, past the green blur of cacti. They careen back onto the highway. In the distance, the orange sun sits like a soft-boiled egg. Coyote is hungry, but hungry for what? He wants, but what does he want? Coyote can smell the Roadrunner's musk. The bird turns and grins. Beep, beep, he says. They are headed for what appears to be a tunnel through thick canyon walls. Coyote should stop. He should stop. The Roadrunner flies through the entrance. Coyote knows that he should pause and check the structure, put a paw up to the granite and see if it is real. He knows the quote about the definition of insanity. Coyote closes his eyes. His legs keep moving. Thank you.
Before I tell my joke, I want to issue a challenge to Zach.
Oh.
While I tell my joke, I want you to come up with a leap song. I'll accept a frog song.
A leap song?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like play a leap song or a frog song. Okay, so the past, the present, and the future walk into a bar. It was tense.
Up Jumped Spring by Freddie Hubbard.
All right. Challenge met.
I came prepared.
Frog.
Brandon, go do some things.
What needs do we have?
I see a thumbs
Oh,
up.
there is more wine.
There
I
is
am
more
being told
wine
there is
and-
more wine. Run, do not walk. There is more wine.
Jeez, Rose.
All right, Rose, make
That
way
was
for
lightning
Rose.
speed.
And so now to leap to our next reader. Can I get Ophelia Montalogo? Ophelia!
Okay, there's a rush on the wine, so just take it slow. Brandon. There's a rush on the booze, so just slow roll it here.
Yes, please. Go for Frog! Frog!
Sorry.
Wait, who was it that just dodged
It was
the frog
meant
instead of
to be.
claiming it?
Sorry, I thought it was.
Hey, if there are any Writer Center board members here, we are not throwing things with a very expensive artwork on the walls.
Not
so
at all.
Okay, I
Never.
very carefully chose the smallest rubberist object I could find.
I believe the correct word is rubberiest.
Oh, pardon me.
Rubberiest.
Can I hire you as my editor?
I would love to.
Excellent.
Okay, so Ophelia, you have the distinction of being our Undiscovered Voices Fellow. For those who don't know, we always pick each year somebody in our community who is an amazing writer and that we would like to shine a spotlight on them throughout an entire year and show them lots of support. And so my first question is, how you doing?
Ooh, yeah, I'm good. I'm writing. I'm trying to finish my novel, and
Love it.
yeah. So I hope I do. I hope I make you proud. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I'm really
So far,
happy
so
to
good.
Thank you. So
Don't mess it up.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be a fellow, and all the support that the Writer Center. They're so welcoming and so amazing. So, yeah.
But I always have to fall back on what I've prepared. So of course, like I asked before, what is your deal?
What's my deal? I don't know. I'm Mexican. I have an accent, as you can tell. So it's not that I'm faking speaking like this. Because I'm not trying to make myself interesting. I just speak like this. Yeah. I've been living in the United States for 12 years. Yeah. And yeah, people think often I'm Russian, yeah, or from any other country, because what part of Mexico are you from? And it's like, do you know?
Russia?
Yeah, like,
I was
Russia?
like, how does that conversation
I don't know. It's just really weird. But sometimes it gets like really, because when I'm at the grocery store, I'm at Starbucks, and everyone wants to know where's my accent from. And it's like, can I just shop and go? Yeah.
So have you maybe discovered a superpower when somebody asked you this fateful question?
I don't know. I'm thinking between Emily's and Rachel's about the I don't know, like maybe I'm never on time. I'm kind of like always rushing. I have this anxiety of always coming.
You said
on
Russian.
time. Yeah. There you go.
We have solved the case.
No, but I think my superpower, if I'm being real, is like I can speak 2 languages and I'm fake 3. Yeah.
Love that. And so, anything that sparked joy for you recently? Books, TV, movies?
Well, I'm doing my MA in Latin America Lit, so my thesis in Sandra Cisneros and the house on Mango Street. So I'm gonna say that because I keep reading it and just read it. Yeah, if you have it. So.
Beautiful. Cool. Please inspire joy in us.
Thank you. So my reading is not as fun as the others. There's no running. Well, there's some running, but not like coyotes and stuff. No, maybe. No, I don't know. So I hope it's not a downer. So everyone, sorry, it's part of my novel. It's called Telepatía. So I'm Mexican, so I use Spanish in my work. Wow. So no, it's not well, but it's like. So I'm gonna say probably words that you're like, what is she saying? Just bear with me, okay? Okay, here we go. It's called Telepatía. Se le metió a la cabeza a Jorge that magic existed. Probably it got into his head for watching and reading so much Harry Potter, or because his mom took him to get his hand read by a know-it-all lady. As best friends, it was his duty to convince me to try magic with him. I refused the first 2 times, but he convinced me to do it when he told me that I was going to hell anyway because I wasn't baptized. Fine, I told him. Maybe with your magic, can you make me legal? Then he started Googling about ways to become a resident, and he even suggested DACA. My mom would rather see me marrying a stranger than applying for DACA, I told him. She needs to sort out her priorities, Jorge said, quoting Ron Weasley with a British accent. That was really bad British accent. It wasn't a really British accent, but. Besides reading Harry Potter, Jorge read online about black magic and how one can start slowly but trying to connect with telepathy stones. Where are we gonna get telepathy stones? I asked him. Well, I already got them from the psiquica, he says, stretching his hand and showing me 2 bright purple stones. Let's meet at the park at midnight in front of the Pancho Villa monument, he said, whispering and placing his stretched hand at the side of his mouth. Don't tell anyone. Who could I possibly tell? Carla? She was a fake Catholic, like Catholic mocha, and I was sure she would never believe in magic. That night, I tiptoed out of home at midnight. The empty street gave crickets the space to perform their disorganized concert. Fresh air blew out of nowhere, making me roll my arms. When I arrived, Jorge was already there. You're late, he said, trepándose on the concrete in front of the monument where there was a space we could sit. And turn off your cell phone. I turned on my cell and climbed up the monument. We sat butterfly style in front of each other, next to the statue's leg. I looked at the Pancho Villa statue smiling, looking south. He was immortalized in bronze with his typical mustache, rifle, bullet blessing hats. His wardrobe made me think that the way people portray him is the way they still portray Mexicans, even though that was more than 100 years. On top of there, I could see a little bit of San Vicente in Mexico, almost like on my own roof. That's nice, I said, admiring the porch lights illuminating our little town, hearing random cats joining the crickets concert. I wondered how it felt to be there in Mexico. Yeah, very nice. Now back to the telepathy. Jorge moved my face towards him with 2 fingers. Focus. He pulled out the purple stones from his jeans pocket. He stretched my hand with my palm looking at the sky and gave me a stone. So, the first thing we're going to do is to try to think the same thing at the same time, okay? He placed the other stone in my hand and took my empty hand and put it on his. We're going to close our eyes, relax, and think of something, okay? And then we'll share in if we thought the same thing or not. What happens if we don't? Then I'll do a spell I found online. Okay, I say, closing my eyes. All I see is black. Get in the mood, Rosa. Think, and then we share. We sat quietly for at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes doesn't seem a lot, but sitting there just thinking something you're supposed to think made 5 minutes feel like an eternity. After a minute, I opened my eye a little to see if Jorge was closing his, and he was. He even had his lips pressed against each other like he was thinking really, really hard. I closed my eye again and tried to think whatever he was thinking. Maybe he was thinking about confessing something to me, or something about school, something about his parents, something about me. Who knew? I kept thinking until he said we were done. So, what do you think? I asked him. I was on a deserted beach, I was reading a book, and I was free. I ran, I yelled, and the sun was there, but it wasn't a killing sun. It was gentle and welcoming. It wasn't cold or hot. He closed his eyes again for a moment, maybe wanting to get the moment back. And you? He opened his eyes again. Pretty much the same, I told him. Not wanting to do a weird online spell. Should we try again until our thoughts are exactly the same? Sure. I stretched my hands in the same position and we both closed our eyes again. This time, I wanted to think about something peaceful, just like Jorge did. But a loud siren forced me to open my eyes. 2 white and green pickups that read Border Patrol stopped by a house in front of the park. La migra, I said. Standing up and hiding behind Pancho Villa's leg that smelled like wet dog's paws and pennies. 4 agents hop out of the trocas and enter the house at gritos. An other van that read eyes arrived after them. They drag out 6 men with their hands on their heads, all in white t-shirts and torn jeans. I narrowed my eyes, attempting to see their faces to identify them, but none of them seemed familiar. It was too dark, or maybe their faces were too deformed with sadness to even recognize them. The officers put them in the back of the ICE van and left there after a few minutes. That's going to happen to me one day, I whispered, feeling thousands of little needles playing with my knees. I will never let that happen to you, Jorge said, putting a hand on my shoulder. Can you magically give me papeles now? He laughed a little. Magic can do that, but hey, what about the DACA thing? You're 50, you should do it now. Being DACA sounded like a dream. Yeah, it'll give people like me some legal status, but my mom said that after this president another comes and removes DACA, I'll be screwed. You'll be in the system, and then they'll really come after you, she'll say. I didn't know what was more uncertain, like living in fake shadows, or I was living then, or being trapped at the mercy of politicians. When the street was clear of any migra, we jumped off Pancho Villa's legs and went back home, and Jorge's arm hooked in mine, a little bit out of breath. I look around with my legs still shaking. Before saying goodbye to Jorge, he told me he'll marry me first before seeing me go back. Sounds funny, but I heard people doing that. Jorge and his family were lucky when they were driving to Yuma, Arizona. They were forced to stop at a border inspection station. The migra asked for the papers. They didn't have any, and they sent them to a judge in Phoenix, and the judge heard their case and how they were good working people, and he pardoned them, made them legal. And now, after years of being residents, they were citizens. But no one really gives you that pardon like that anymore. That was an exception, not the rule. When I arrived home, my mother was waiting for me in the living room. She was sitting on her couch wearing her nightgown. Where were you, Rosita? I heard the sirens. Her puffy eyes were a little redder than usual. You were answering your phone. I fished my phone in the pocket and realized it was still turned off. I'm so sorry, I said. Inside my other pocket, I felt the telepathy stone jolting into my hand. Mom, I want to be DACA. I didn't know if it was really me saying that or if it was Jorge that got into my head with his magic and telepathy. Yeah.
Wait just 1 second.
Ophelia, we are so glad you're part of the Writers Center family. I'm waiting for my poster. Can I get something better than that?
Ooh. Shots fired, shots fired.
Why should you never open your refrigerator door quickly?
Why?
Because you might see an Italian dressing.
Oh, frogs.
Frogs!
Frogs! Oh my
More frogs.
gosh.
That's it on frogs.
No, we're done with frogs.
Okay, now, with great pleasure, I would like to introduce the High Priestess of Love, the Queen of the Shameless Plug, the Empress of Pride, the Goddess of DC, Racine Pendarvis. And there are, and I'm trying to talk. There are flyers available for her next show. But hi, Racine.
How are you? Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Let's try that again. Good evening, everyone.
Here's my script. Ready? How the heck are you?
I'm wonderful. I just turned 70 last month, so I'm living my best life.
Your superpower is clearly moisturizer. So, what is your superpower?
My superpower is to always walk in the room and give love. Give love to those who are feeling blue. Give love to those who do not like me or understand my lifestyle. I give them love to disarm the hate. That is my superpower.
I have no jokes to make. So why don't you just tell us a little about yourself and then read?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a radio host. I'm television, stage, screen. I am a father of 5 and mother of many. I'm a native Washingtonian. I am a columnist for Swerve, for Unleashed Voices, for Q Virginia, and once again, I'm the host of the Ask Racine Show, which is a wonderful show I created with so many wonderful individuals, such as Team Racine, who are here tonight.
In the house.
It is a live variety show at HRC, which is the Human Rights Campaign building, first Wednesdays of every month. Follow me on all forms of social media. That's RAYCEEN. I'm the queen of the shameless plug. Oh. And please follow me at Team Racine at YouTube.
I'm just going to sit down.
So I, as the queen of shameless plug, I believe in plugging everything that I do. So there was a time I never did that, and I do now, because sometimes it's important to speak on the things that you do and open the doors for others so they may show their gifts, their talents. And having the Ask Racine Show is a beautiful love and a labor of love, because it allows artists such as poets, dancers, singers, politicians, and so many others to come into a place that is free, that celebrates their artistry and uplifts them and gives a place, a safe space where we all can gather. So that is one of my labors of love, and my children are my greatest gift, and my family is my greatest gift as well. So I'd like to read 2 poems, one inspired by my mother. My mother, her name is Mary Chandler. She raised 5 young, incredible men. And my mother had the ability to always make us feel very special. I would tell people, if you come and stay at my house, my mother does not wake you up in a normal way. She wakes you up with poetry. And each one of us had a poem. My mother is 93 now, and she has Alzheimer's, and I'm one of her caretakers. 10 years ago, my mother recited the poem that was my poem, that she would wake me up every morning. So tonight, I celebrate her, and I will do that piece in an original piece. This piece is called In the Morning by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Liza, Liza, bless the Lord. Don't you know this day's aboard? You better listen here, you lazy scamp. You better get up off this bed before there's trouble in this camp. Tell I sleep and tell you sly. Don't you hear me calling you? Don't you hear me, Liza, you? Bet you come here from this floor, you won't be fit no time to snore. Daylight shining while you sleep, when you hear and send a candle light enough to burn without a snuff. But don't you go no morning too, but don't you hear the daylight too? Liza, don't you hear me calling you? No use no turning to the wall, I hear that mattress squalling. Don't you hear me when I speak? Take this clock, done struck at 6. Callie, bring me down these sticks. Oh, you down and sure you do. Look here, don't you hear me calling you? March your eyes and watch your face. Don't you splash all over this place. I got something else to do, slide and cook and cleaning too. Don't you feel like combing that hair? Look at that Freddy ball in hair. Look here, boy, I like to hear you see. Don't you roll your eyes at me. Boy, I whip you till you drop. Don't you feel Tula strong? Ain't you surely got me wrong? Sit down here at this table. Just a whipping at your able. Even morning on this place, seem like I've got to lose my grace. Wait a minute, don't you hear me say, Lord, bless all my souls. Don't you read them, Rylan? Bless this food we got to eat. So you see, I see your feet. Don't you try to trick me again. Get up in peace and joy. Amen. My goal, I have been so blessed with many opportunities. I've stayed on many stages. I've worked with many entertainers in my life as a writer and as an MC. But I've written as a columnist, but one day I'd like to write a book. It is that time to write a book. And when that time comes, I will write a series of books, probably called The Ask Racine Experience. And in that book, one of them will be a book of poems. This poem was inspired by all of those trans individuals in the world, my trans brothers and sisters, who stand and walk in their truth. Preachers preach against my lifestyle, all while drinking, smoking, and sleeping around. Tell me I'm going to hell like they're the conductor of the train. Using the Bible against me like masters use to keep their slaves in line.
Preach.
Not knowing I will be meeting you at the gate, telling you your name is not on the list. Who are you to judge? Father says boys are not supposed to act that way, but has another family across town. He tells me to straighten up while mama fights to get up after she's been knocked down. Daddy puts me out, but let my brother stays because the drugs he sells pays a few bills. Our beloved father tells all his friends, I hope all my children grow up just like me. Who are you to judge? Mother says it's not natural for my older brother. But yet, my older brother is by my grandfather. She says you need Jesus. But behind my father's back, she sleeps with Jesus. Girl, you have the nerve to tell me I need therapy when bottles under your bed suggest you need an AA meeting. Who are you to judge? My community tells me that they don't want me around, but allows a registered sex offender to live on our block. Neighbors call me out for being trans, but the white robes belonging to their fathers in their closet with the initial KK still stands there. Their kids call us faggots, dykes, bulldaggers, and sissies. But terms like spook, redneck, cracker, and even the N-word they say is offensive. The world says you can be anything but gay. Who are you to judge? Thank you.
And because it's Racine's 70th, we're celebrating Racine all year with flowers. And make sure you guys come out to the Ask Racine show March 4th at the Human Rights Campaign building.
Are there flyers in the back? There are flyers in the back.
There are flyers in the back.
Along with the donation pictures.
And thank you to the Writers Center, to Amy, and to all of the wonderful artists that I had the opportunity to share the stage with you. Keep sharing your gift with others. Keep inspiring others, because words change lives. Words have the ability to uplift us when we are down. They have words to inspire us. So use your gift. It is a great and precious gift. And whether there are times when you doubt it, and sometimes you don't understand that power is so great, but share it with the world, because if you can change one life with your book, then your job is done. Thank you so much.
Can we get all of our readers back up here, SNL style?
Yeah.
Everyone back up. Here we go.
Ophelia, Dave, Rachel, Laurie.
Thank you, thank you. All right. Here we are.
Wait, Should we thank our long-suffering boss who went to get more wine?
Thank the boss. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Laura, Grace, all of our board members. Josh for taking photos. Remember, we'll be passing out evaluations. Please give us your feedback.
Yeah, right in the back. Funders need to know that we're using their money wisely, so prop us up.
Give us feedback. Give us your money that you don't want. Buy Dave's book. And find the Team Racine people for flyers about their next event. Thank you.